For today's DC Page Punchers review, we are looking at the Red Platinum Edition Jessica Cruz Green Lantern figure. Before I talk about the accessories and the figure, let's take a quick look at the data profile card. As you can see, there is this beautiful comic book artwork of Jessica Cruz Green Lantern. On the backside, you do have a read-up for who the character is. Her real name is Jessica Cruz, and it reads, Jessica Cruz had been living in fear since being the only survivor of an attack on her group of friends. This crippling anxiety led her to be chosen as the unwilling host of the Ring of Voldoom. I believe I pronounced that name wrong. However, with help from Batman and Green Lantern Hal Jordan, Jessica was able to draw on hidden reserves of courage. When she apparently sacrificed herself saving the Flash, Barry Allen, Voldoom's hold on her was destroyed, and she was chosen as a Green Lantern. She and Simon Baz were assigned to protect Earth's space sector, though Jessica still struggled with doubts over her worthiness to be a hero. And that is a pretty good read-up on who Jessica Cruz Green Lantern is as a character. And now, let's move on to the accessories that are included with this figure. Unfortunately, when it comes to the accessories department, she doesn't have any alternate head sculpts, no interchangeable hands. All she comes with are these two effect pieces, which sadly are 100% reused. I believe these were introduced with the Red Hood figure from the Arkham Knight video game. And let's start with this first effect piece. This is what I like to call the energy charging effect, or the punch effect sort of gimmick. So the energy charging sort of interpretation is that you can imagine that maybe when they're charging the energy of their ring and they're about to fire a giant blast, this is what the energy is looking like when it's forming, right? You can interpret it that way. And for the whole punching effect thing, maybe when they're punching super hard on a solid surface, trying to, make an impact or something, the energy is just coming out of the ring. That's another way I can interpret this as a punch effect. Now for the second one, this is what I like to call the swoosh effect. So basically, you equip this to either their leg or their arm, but I think this is mostly for the leg. And you can imagine that when they're fighting in midair, they have the green energy surrounding them, right? Because they're hovering, and if they were to kick their enemy really fast, then there would be this green swoosh effect of some kind, right? It makes sense. So depending on who you have this equipped to, whether it's Jessica Cruz, Hal Jordan, or John Stewart, if you're getting them into this sort of action pose where they're kicking an enemy, then yes, it works as an effect piece. Now, what I don't like about this is that because these are 100% reuse effect parts, this was truly a missed opportunity on their end to actually give her unique constructs that are new to this figure, because they did this with some other Green Lantern figures where they actually gave them some unique constructs. For example, let's think of Kyle Rayner, right? He came with an armor piece, which is not new because we have gotten an armor piece before, but his is more similar to a samurai kind of armor piece. And then he had a sword. He had something else it was a sword. I think it was two swords. One was a heavy blade, and then the other one was a katana. So you can think of that as some unique constructs to him, or you can share it with some of your other Green Lantern figures. Another good example would be Simon Baz. He came with a drill construct, and he also had a power gauntlet construct. I believe that was what the other one was. I don't exactly remember. Point is, they have made some unique construct effects before. Why couldn't they have done it here with her? I think it's just because it's cost-cutting measures, and also she's a Red Platinum Edition figure, so there's limited quantities of her, so they don't have to put in more budget to the accessories. Because the last time I looked at two Red Platinum figures, I believe it was Starman and Damage, they came with no accessories. I just want to point this out. I just think that it's kind of lazy to just reuse these when they could have given her something different. Alright, that is all I can say about the accessories. Let's move on to the rest of what is included in this box. So of course she does come with a DC figure stand. As you can see, I have it on her because she is wearing high heels, and usually these kind of figures do not like to stand at all. So yeah, very troublesome to pose and get them to stand properly without a stand of some kind. And since this is a page puncher, she does come with a comic book issue, and this is Green Lantern's Rebel Run Part 1. I have not read this run before, so I have no clue what's happening in the story, outside of the fact that this part says, Jessica Cruz, you are under arrest. So I'm assuming the plot for the story is that she basically is being framed for a crime that she did not do, and now she needs to prove her innocence. And let's show a few pages of the inside of the comic book. Here we have the first page where she basically wakes up from being unconscious, and then suddenly she is getting captured by these green chains, which is from this other Green Lantern who has found her. And in the next page, she outsmarts this Green Lantern by breaking away from the chains, and I assume that he is a rookie because maybe he's a new Green Lantern on the scene. And she basically flees and runs elsewhere because, you know, she's not guilty of whatever crime she is being framed for, I assume. And then we have more pages here. And then let's show another page. Here's Hal Jordan and Kilowog, right? They're looking for her. And then you also have this page right here where she's inside, I guess, an alien bar. Actually, no, not this page. I think it's this one. Here we go. It's this page. And then the final page for this issue, Simon Baz shows up to, arrest her. So, yeah, don't know what's going on in the plot here because I haven't read this run before, but there is the issue that is included with this figure, and that is everything inside this box. And now, let's move on to the aesthetics of this figure. Taking a closer look at the figure, let's start with the face sculpt. As you can see, this is one beautiful face sculpt for Jessica Cruz Green Lantern. I also like the little detail right there with the Green Lantern logo on the right side of her eye. However, in terms of execution, it is rough. It looks like a green splotch of paint, even though the logo is visible. If you look at the source material, this is what it looks like, right? It's the same shape as what you see on the logo on her chest, and I don't know why they couldn't have just found a way to downsize that logo and just apply it to the right side of her eye here. But yeah, they decided to paint it this way. And if you are a customizer and you don't like the way this looks, you're definitely going to change it. But if you don't really care about this tiny little detail, then it's pretty much whatever to you. So there is the face sculpt. Overall, a pretty good face sculpt. Now for the hair sculpt, it is in this windswept motion, which is not bad, but it will hinder the articulation of her head sculpt. So do keep that in mind. And here's a look on the backside of the hair sculpt. Very nicely sculpted. And moving on to the design of her uniform, it is just your standard Green Lantern uniform, but I do like the detail changes that are different on her uniform compared to some of the other figures that we've gotten in the past. So as you can see, she has this black border that surrounds the Green Lantern logo. That's pretty cool. It's different from, some of the other figures. Let's bring in Hal Jordan here, for example. He doesn't have a black border line surrounding his logo. And then here's another example of a different logo with John Stewart, right? And then, of course, we have Kyle Rayner, who has probably the most interesting of logos because it's not in the center, it's on the side. So, yeah, I like when they do stuff like this. Even though their uniforms are similar in terms of the designs, I like when they have something different going on because it allows for the character to stand out more. So having these differences is just nice. Now, looking at the side of her arm here, you can see that there is this green shoulder part of it mixed with the black, and then down here she has the white and the green, and then there's the black in the middle right there to kind of divide the colors, which is really nice. And then for her fist hand here, you do have the Green Lantern ring if it focuses. Yeah, it's kind of rough with the way that it's painted. Now, in terms of the sculpt, it is there. Actually, let me take a good look of it. It's so small. Yeah, the sculpt is there, but the paint job is just super rough. And something I noticed, and I just want to point this out. So, as you can see, the ring is on her ring finger. But if you look at the source material, it is not on her ring finger. So, for example, this image right here, it is on her middle finger. And then the cover art here, it is also on her middle finger. So, I don't know what happened here. Like, is there like a version of the comics where she wears it on her ring finger, or is this just like a factory error or something? I noticed that a lot of other people's copies also have the same thing going on, and I just want to point it out because I do find this interesting how that's sculpted on the wrong finger. But it is what it is, I guess. So there is that tiny little detail right there. And for the other side of the arms, it is the same as well. This is an item holding hand, as you can see. So you can have her hold a Green Lantern battery if you want to. Now, for the legs down here, it is pretty much just black and white, but you do see some sculpt lines here. And no, these are not die cuts. This body buck is a reuse of the Nightfall Catwoman body buck. So a lot of the same sculpted details are still present. For example, if you look at the chest here, you can see the line right there in the middle. It's like pretty much going into the Green Lantern logo. And what they did here is that they painted the bottom of it with the black line just to match it with the logo here. It would have been nice if they also painted the line up top as well to make it all, look even nicer. Or maybe it doesn't look nice. I'm not too sure. But yeah, that line is visible right there. There is some wrinkle marks sculpted in her uniform to create some crease marks, which is nice, as you can see right here, right? On the same thing over here. No, it's only that one side of the leg. Okay, so there are those tiny little sculpted details that they did keep in, which I think is great. But yeah, overall, the body buck is the same, so a lot of those sculpted details that were existent before are there, which it isn't good. Like, for example, the legs right here, this should be flat. There should not be any sculpted lines here at all. But if you want to consider it part of the uniform design, I guess it works in that sense. Leave it up to your imagination, right? So for the back side of the figure, you do have the green and black. And as you can see, they did not hide this well. There's some product information right there. Yeah, that's not great. Really? You couldn't have hid it underneath the torso? Come on. They've done a good job with hiding that stuff, but it seems like they just don't care anymore nowadays. So, yeah. And then looking at her shoes, she is wearing high heels or high boots, whatever you call these. So, yeah, there's that. And that is pretty much all the details with this figure that I can really talk about. And that pretty much will wrap up the aesthetics for Jessica Cruz. And now, let's move on to the articulation of this figure. Starting off with the articulation of the head sculpt, she can look up this much, which is not great at all, as you can see, because the hair sculpt is going to get in the way. When it comes to looking down, that's as much as it will go, because there's not enough clearance with the neck joint and the neck sculpt to allow her to look down any further. Turning her head to the left side, this is as much as it will go, which is pretty good, so she can look to her left. Turning her head to the right, that's as far as it will go because the hair sculpt will run into the shoulders. And when it comes to tilting her head side to side, there is no problems there. So overall, the articulation with the head sculpt is very restricting. So you're going to have some difficulties getting her into some good flying poses. Now for the articulation of her arm, she can lift out this much, swing back and forth, upper bicep swivel, double jointed articulation in the arm, and she has swivel in the hands as well as wrist articulation. So the arms are pretty good. Now for the torso, let me just pop the stand off. The upper torso has pretty good range of motion right there when it comes to rotation. But when it comes to leaning forward, yeah, that's not leaning forward at all. As for leaning back, you can see that there is barely any movement at all. And then going down to the waist, it's the same thing. It can rotate. And then when you lean forward, you can't lean much forward at all. Leaning back, same problem. Very restricting with the articulation for the torso and the waist. Now for her legs, she can split out this much, which is not bad. Does she have upper thigh swivels? No, they do not work. Does she kick out? Yes, she can. Does she have double jointed in the legs? This side, let's see if I can get it to work. There we go. She does have double jointed. And does she have articulation in the feet? Of course she does. And she has swivel and toe articulation. So that about covers all the articulation for this figure. And overall, the articulation is decent, but it's not good because you're going to face a lot of problems getting her into decent action poses. So that about covers the articulation for Jessica Cruz. And now let's jump into some comparisons. Here is Jessica Cruz Green Lantern next to her other fellow Green Lanterns. We have Jon Stewart, Hal Jordan, Kyle Rayner, Tomar, and Kilowog. And as you can see, this is shaping up to be a very nice looking display for my collection in terms of Green Lanterns. Now, I am missing 2 Earth Green Lantern figures. I don't have Guy Gardner and Simon Baz. I will pick up those figures in the future. It will happen before the line comes to an end, and I will have reviews for those figures whenever that happens. But yeah, that's where my shelf is right now for my Green Lanterns, and this is looking very nice. And that is basically going to be the comparison. I just wanted to have her next to the other Green Lantern figures in my collection just to give you a sense of what she'll look like if you do get this figure. And let me know in the comments below what you think about this figure. Are you going to pick up a Jessica Cruz Green Lantern figure if you do find her at your stores? Remember, she is a red platinum figure, so it's not an easy one to find. But I do wish you luck if you are looking for this one. And there it is, the comparisons for today's review. If you found today's review informative, do give this video a like. If you want to subscribe to the channel for more action figure content and whatever else I do on here, it would be much appreciated. And with that said, take care, and I will see you in the next video.